the Milsurf Mike channel. This video will continue my stroll through CZ pistols with their last pre-war design, the CZ vz.38. The CZ-38 is a somewhat ugly and very awkward pistol, and when you shoot it compared to the CZ-24, you wonder why it was desired as a replacement. It's only when you field strip it when you see the why. While I disagree with Skrzymowski and Badalik that this was the evolutionary peak of Czech pre-war pistol design, it is an example that follows Georgy Svagin's philosophy: complexity is easy, simplicity is difficult. In my video on the CZ-24 and 27, I went over the beginnings of Czechoslovakia as a nation, the ramping up of its domestic firearms industry, and of course the beginning of Czechoslovakia located in Strakonic, who had trademarked CZ. Czechoslovakia is not to be confused with Československa Slovakia and Bruno, who would end up trademarking ZB. Remember, we are not talking about Bruno.
We don't talk about Bruno.
In the history of the nation, that video left off with the nation's founder, Thomas Masaryk, as president. While he preached federalism, in reality power was becoming more centralized with just the Czechs, almost pushing the Slovaks to the side, along with ethnic Germans and other minorities. Still, he preached equal rights for all, and border recognition with Germany in 1925 helped assuage the ethnic Germans living in the Sudetenland, while there was a security agreement with France. He was re-elected in 1927, and the nation was prosperous. Things would take a dive south starting in 1928, with Masaryk suffering a stroke and the start of the Great Depression in 1929. While everyone suffered, Sudetenland Germans claimed to suffer even more. While fascism rose in Germany, a separatist fascist party led by Konrad Heinlein would rise in the Sudeten. Although Masaryk would be re-elected in 1934, Heinlein's party would take just one less seat than the majority party in the parliamentary elections in 1935. Masaryk would step down in December of 1935 and die 2 years later. Edvard Beneš would step in as president. The Munich Agreement between Germany, France, and Great Britain would see the Sudetenland ceded to Germany on September 30th, 1938. Poland and Hungary would pick off some territory as well. On March 14th, 1939, Slovakia would secede with a puppet fascist government, and the rest of Czechoslovakia would be invaded the next day and occupied until 1945. While United Ethnic Germans was the story for annexing the Sudetenland, the biggest game for Germany would be the Czech arms industry. If you've seen previous videos I've done on Czech firearms, I go over how some of the most advanced weapons early on during the Blitzkrieg were Czech-made, especially machine guns and tanks. The Panzer 38T, built by Skoda Works, was far superior to the German Panzer Mark I and II tanks, and ended up being 10% of the tanks used to invade Poland, with a far higher percentage used in France. They were only bested by the Soviet T-34 tanks in 1942, but even then, they would be converted into armored personnel carriers. Václav Holík's machine guns would see massive use by both the Germans, as well as the British and their Commonwealth nations during the war. I also went over just how awesome Czech-made Mausers were in my VZ-24 video, calling it the smoothest 8mm Mauser I ever shot. The plentiful VZ-24 and VZ-27 pistols were used by German armed and police forces. So with all this praise heaped upon Czech firearms, you would figure that Germany would have been happy to field and urge CZ to massively produce a pistol that was so newly adopted that the Czech military didn't yet possess them prior to German occupation, the VZ-38. Yet this wouldn't happen, as Germany would have the CZ finish the initial order and only a few thousand more being made after the conclusion of the initial order. CZ would produce tenfold more VZ-27s than VZ-38s under German occupation, but I'm getting ahead of myself. In the VZ-24 and 27 video, I went over the beginnings of Czechoslovakia and Strakonic. Slovakia Praga would fold in 1926 and more or less be absorbed by CZ. As CZ produced thousands of Model 24 and 27 pistols, they would also expand by building a factory in Hrušovský Brod in 1936. It was around this time that the Ministry of Defense desired a new sidearm that was simpler and cheaper to produce, as well as easier to maintain in the field. As you can see from my field strip videos, or takedown portion of the VZ-24 and 27 pistols, there are several small pieces that can get lost in the field while cleaning. Franciszek Majska would design this blowback, double-action only pistol that fired the 9mm Browning, or .380 ACP, from a 9-round detachable magazine. There's no manual safety due to the long double-action trigger pull. These pistols would cost less than half to make per unit than the Model 24. So let's take a quick look inside the pistol. Alright, let's take a little closer look at the vz.38. I have the vz.24 and the vz.27 here for comparison's sake. One thing I want you to look at is, this is a lot easier grip, a lot more ergonomic, and not to mention, the single action trigger for the most part is it's a decent trigger, a fairly accurate gun, fairly well liked gun by the military. Now, the vz.38, you kind of, besides the fact that it's simple to put together, simple to field strip, probably simple to produce, I can see what they were thinking there, but man, this whole thing is ergonomics and shooting ability to be damned. So I showed that this is just awkward, it's awkward grip. You got it locks on open, nothing in the chamber or magazine, and of course, as with the other two, it slide goes closed and you pull the magazine out. So basically, all you got to do to field strip this is push that forward, pull your slide off, and beside your magazine, you really only got two pieces to deal with. You can see that you got your spring there, that's captive in there, and your barrel's attached by a swiveled bushing. Now, as you can see, this makes for a very high bore axis, so again, that doesn't help out shooting at all either. Now, this is field strip. I'm going to go a little extra here. I just want to show you that this grip, how this doesn't have to be like this, because this grip adds a lot more depth to it. It's a it's a single wraparound grip. So let's go ahead and get these screws out of here. Let's get this grip off. And as you can see, that grip adds a lot of depth to that. They could have made a lot, maybe not narrow, a lot shorter grip, where you could at least, get a better purchase on the pistol. So anyway, I just wanted to show that to you. It's almost like they were designing it not to be accurate. So let's go ahead and get this grip back on real quick here. Hopefully I can get the screw in without too much delay here. So, like I said, it looks like it's a real simple pistol to produce. It's definitely simple to take down, but man, it kind of sucks to shoot. So, all right. So now we're back down to field strip. So just to put it back together, we put our slide over the barrel, bring it down, pull it forward, do a function check. Put our magazine back in, get that long double action trigger, and there we go. If you've learned something so far, please give me a like below or give me a comment below, and we will get done with cleaning up the history and finishing up this video. 41,000 pistols would be ordered from CZ, and the first 20 were ready for commission testing on March 11, 1939. 4 days later, they'd be under German occupation. Germany didn't want to stop production, so it continued unimpeded. The full order would be completed by the end of 1939. It would be accepted on behalf of the Germans by the Czech army, so there would be no Waffenomps on the vz.38, or as the Germans would dub them, the Pistol 39T. These pistols would have serial numbers 250,000 through 291,000. They'd mostly find use with the Wehrmacht, the Reich Labor Service, and Organisation Tod, an engineering organization that relied heavily on quote-unquote conscripted labor. A batch of 3,000 more with serial numbers 240,000 to 243,000 would be made for the Luftwaffe, and another 1,000 be made with a B prefix serial number for export to Bulgaria. 1,731 pistols would find their way to Finland and get SA stamps. I'm sure that Mosin Garand guy is looking to add these pistols to his collection. Although these pistols were cheap to produce and maintain, the fact that the Germans did not have CZ produce many more of these pistols after the initial order was completed, while continuing to crank out Model 27 pistols, speaks volumes. They'd even still have some pistols in storage as Draconets at the end of the war. This is not a fun pistol to shoot, and several things conspire to hamper precision and accuracy. The double-action trigger is atrocious, and the very high bore axis does nothing to mitigate recoil. The awkward grip makes this one of the least ergonomic pistols I've ever fired. I'm not a good pistol shooter by any means, but I didn't have much trouble hitting the 15-yard target with the other handguns I took out that day. Not the case with the vz.38. I'm sure as with any pistol, practice would help out greatly, but I wouldn't want my life to count on it in any of but the closest of situations. As you might guess, this pistol gets a hard no versus its contemporaries. Did I miss anything? What do you want to learn about next? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to learn more about CZ history prior to the vz.38, click over here. Otherwise, please join the GOA and get $5 off a yearly or $100 off a life membership with the link below. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a great day.